For more on this, let's bring in Adam Hancock. He joins me live from Singapore. Adam, good to see you. So China's retaliation has only escalated tensions between Beijing and Washington. I wonder what kind of impact it's having on Asian markets.
It's having a huge impact in this region, and that is because so many of the major economies across Asia, they're very driven by exports. Therefore, they're making things to sell across the world. And of course, the United States is one of their biggest markets. And it's not just these new 10% baseline tariffs that are now in effect. President Trump has targeted a lot of Asian countries, specifically slapping really high tariffs on them. For example, China, Japan, Vietnam have all been hit very hard. So for businesses in the US that used to import goods from here, it's now going to be a lot less appealing when they're looking at 40–50% import taxes. So it's caused a huge amount of concern. China in particular, it's bad news for them. Their economy is struggling domestically. They've had a prolonged property crisis for the last few years, high levels of youth unemployment, and they've been trying to rely on domestic growth to improve the economy, but they've failed with that so far. So they've been looking to their export market to meet the government's ambitious growth targets. But of course, that's going to be difficult now, given this escalating global trade war. Reaction-wise, in terms of the markets in this part of the world, it's been a very similar story to what we've seen in the US and Europe. Markets here have had a couple of days to digest the news. We've seen big sell-offs in Japan, in Australia, in Hong Kong as well. The markets actually in mainland China and Hong Kong were closed on Friday, so they're playing catch-up on Monday. But given how Wall Street closed so down on Friday, you'd expect when the markets reopen on Monday morning here, it's not going to be a pretty sight.
And Adam, in the end, it's all about how important the U.S. is for these markets. So let me ask you, can Asian markets afford to lose the United States as a trading partner?
Well, it's certainly going to be difficult for them. A lot of countries here, they rely heavily on the United States. Japan, for example, is one of the biggest exporters to the US, particularly in terms of automobiles. And that is why we've seen countries around this region scrambling to try and get deals with the United States. Even before this so-called Liberation Day last week, trade officials from Japan and from India, they met with their counterparts in Washington to try and press them to get these tariffs removed or get some kind of exemption. Vietnam as well, which has been hit very hard, 46% tariffs slapped on Vietnam. Their president spoke to Donald Trump on Friday. They're going to try and put together a deal to get some of those tariffs removed. The countries in this region now are going to be looking at other markets. There's been some talk of a possible alliance between Japan, South Korea and China, some kind of trade deal there, which would have seemed very unthinkable a short while ago. But considering how much Donald Trump has rattled the global trade markets over the last week or so, countries now having to think of another plan, because it's not just the fact that these tariffs are in place. Nobody knows how long they're going to last. Nobody knows if they're going to be increased. So there's so much uncertainty that for the countries in this part of the world, it's very difficult to work out where to sell to, where to base your supply chain, just due to all of that uncertainty.
That's Adam Hancock live for us from Singapore. Adam, thank you very much indeed.